Hey folks, Valentin the Mad here, and today we'll be looking at the character responses in Stranglehold. This is the first part of a double feature. The other video will be on the destruction coming tomorrow, and as for this one, I can say straight up, there are issues, some are significant, but the game also did several things very correctly. Better than many games I covered here on the channel. And this video was voted on by the Patreon supporters and the channel members. Supporter tier and above get videos like this one a week early, and on the voter tier and above you have a say on what's coming next. Consider joining, that very much helps out. Now to the video. As always, here on the channel we begin with the big mutilation, and maybe you have played this game and you ask yourself, what big mutilation? To which I only must ask you, have you seen the glorious fish gore? So as you can see, you have a whole bunch of variations mapped throughout, and if you keep shooting further at a variation, it eventually becomes a point of amputation. So we go for the head here, we have just the head, shoot a little bit further up, variation, then point of amputation. Let's have one more look. Variation, point of amputation, and I think it even hit the boat and then went down into the water. So we do have realistic severed beats physics. So yeah, that is the fish gore. Now, on a serious note, the response you're gonna be seeing is this. You can see on him actually pretty well. And he's vanished. He didn't fly away, he actually vanished. And that guy too, yeah, we'll talk about it. There are some pretty big issues, and you know, I would go out there to showcase it. You have nothing for explosive hits, he just gets ragdolled. No even overlays, no anything, but see, if I go away to look at his body, I won't be able to showcase the wounds on these guys, so you have to trust me on the fact that we only have fish gore and nothing for the human characters. Anyway, the response you'll be seeing for the non-dismembering hits is gonna be this kind of a blood-soaked area at the point of impact. And it's gonna kinda vary, so at times, as you can see, it's gonna be really small. On this guy who was right here, it was decently large. And you're gonna be seeing the same response wherever you hit on the character, so even on flesh, even on the face, on the arms, you're gonna be seeing this blood-soaked area. Yeah, as you can see, like right here, it's kind of a decent size, can be small. I actually have a clip from a different level where it was really small, so yeah, that's pretty much gonna be the response, and yeah, this guy is already gone. So, you know, nothing fancy, nothing particularly terribly interesting, but in the context of its time, and I remember playing it back when it came out, I actually thought this stuff looks better than what we have in the vast majority of games that were currently out there. So for the most part, you know, very few games had a response at the point of impact. And here, as you can see, we actually have it, and it's gonna be very consistent. That's also one thing it very much has going for it, is consistency, which isn't a given even still today. So I remember thinking at the time, this blood-soaked response actually looks better than what we have in the vast majority of games currently out there. Because as I was saying, for the most part, very few games had a non-dismembering response at the point of impact. And the few games that did, it actually looked really bad, so I remember very often just a huge hole and a tiny amount of blood around it. And here, you know, it's very low res, as you can see. Just a blood-soaked area, but the color is actually pretty good, and as I was mentioning, consistency is the other thing it absolutely has going for it. And I should know that you will be having boss fights too, and I find them as unexciting as they are in literally any other game that has them, so whether you have a big character to justify the huge health bar, or just a regular dude as you have here, essentially the fight itself is always gonna be the same, just repeated shooting, in other games perhaps bashing, at a large bullet sponge, and I never got the appeal of those. Moving on to the blood spilling, we'll begin with the good. Oh yeah, you can see it here very well, so on the moment of impact, you will have the splat itself appear, and then blood will begin dripping down. And one of the things it has going for it in this aspect is the looks of the stains, and those are very nice. Let's have perhaps a few more showcases. Maybe this guy is gonna be a good splat model. Oh, what the hell. Occasionally they won't work, but it should have worked. That I did have, but a clear showcase, and perhaps you can become a good splat model. Bad angle from my end, so yeah, so look at that. That is one nice splat. This one too, I think it partially glitched out. I think it, yeah, it kinda glitches out beyond this section here, but still doesn't look bad at all, even in a glitched out format. Yeah, so one of the cool things it has going for it in terms of blood spilling is the looks of the initial splats at the impacts, and as you can see, well, we'll get to it, but you only have them on walls. The other very cool thing it has going for it is the looks of the blood pools. And I'm talking about both the shape and the color, so about the shape. It's kind of like, I like to call it Last of Us style before it became cool, and you know, this game is from 2007, long before we were introduced to the glorious blood pools of The Last of Us, and at the time and until not too long ago, the standard was basically those very circular ones. And what we have here is, as you can see, just this one's glitched out, but those are just much more interesting, and yeah, so I do very much like the looks of the blood pools here. But as you can see, we have some issues here, so let's begin with those. Now, as you can see here, it was quite a lot of splashing. Those splashes are not small. You can say it's just a tiny little blood puff. But unless there is a wall or a surface right behind the character, as you can see, you have absolutely nothing for that splashing. You won't even have the wall stains happen on all surfaces, so on this van, I know you can have a stain on that van. But for example, in previous testing, on this yellow car, you can't have any stains, and as I was saying, unless there is a wall right behind the character, or some kind of a surface, you won't have any staining. The splashing is actually quite huge, so as you can see, those aren't small splashes, by any means. And they do look decently nice, and they won't leave a single damn thing. And we'll talk about the animations, absolutely, that's one of the best things about the character responses here. And we also have a nice look of a blood pool forming. Again, once again, those are just very nice patterns, so one of the issues, no stains if there is no surface, and the other one, which you'll see right up, which you've seen before, but Might as well have a direct showcase. I briefly looked away and where'd he go? The cleanup crew in this game is very fast, so you have, let's say you are like looking at a certain direction and you have like every character you kill there, you still have an absolute maximum number of dead characters on screen at a given time, D4. Yeah, massive number. And when you look away, you just have them vanish, and perhaps more than anything at the time, this one drove me nuts the most because, you know, we'll ignore for a moment the issue of the lack of response stains. At the time, the body damage, as I was saying, it looked not bad at all. The blood pools still look very cool. The looks of the wall stains when they happen are still very cool. And, you know, you finish a fight, you kinda want to admire the aftermath and you can't. Aside from the blood pools, there is no aftermath, and you know, it's kind of hard to talk about configurability in this one because this port, I can't say it's the most afterthought port I've ever played or I've ever heard of, because there are worse ports, but there are basically no graphical options to speak of. So you almost can't expect anything like a decal amount or a bodies amount, which is just a massive shame. We end with the animations, and they are perhaps the most fun aspect here in our theme, so when it comes to non-fatal responses and ragdolls, we'll get to it. They are for the most part not great, but as you can see here, the fatal ones are just glorious, so they are gonna be very well animated, and they can be interrupted by objects, apparently even this. Hopefully he can be uninterrupted. So, some are gonna be shorter, but some are very much gonna be lengthy, and those are just glorious, so let's showcase a few more. And different animations depending on where you hit, so let's grab a few of those for the activation. Oh, thank you for coming up so close here, and it's gonna be a little ridiculous on the face. Clearly, like, the headshots are pretty ridiculous, but nonetheless I do very much like the core idea here. The very good job of animating those, and just the variety you have here. So let's show a few more perhaps. So just all around fun action game animations. Like, I can keep going and going, but I think you get the idea. But as for the negatives, yeah, we do have those as well. The ragdolls are just atrocious. Yeah, I have no medpack here and I might die. Yeah, as you can see, so if you do finish a character with a punch, that's what it's gonna look like, and yeah, so the animations are very nice and weighty, very nicely animated, very cool, and then the character goes into ragdoll and just, what the hell. No, just look at the difference between the animation and the ragdoll here. And yeah, I imagine the intent was to have them fly around and break stuff, but you know, the flying around can be done in a more weighty manner. But you know, I won't give them too much crap for it. The game is from 2007, so oh yeah. That's sadistic, but you know, it is a glorious animation on the lengthy side and quite a way to go out. Right, and do I have one for the finale? Oh man, and he's just kicking around, and that is so cool. So yeah, so no fancy functionality, no injured states, anything like that, but we do have action game animations that top many action games that came out even much later, even today. So while it isn't an example of perfection or anything, but oh, come on. I think those animations are still very much notable. And imagine perhaps like those combined with some active ragdolls, so sometimes you have a lengthy animation like what we have here, sometimes just active ragdoll kicking around and knocking stuff over. So I think even now, even with almost 20 bloody years passed since the release of this game, it can still be a pretty good reference for a action style death animations. In conclusion, as I was mentioning earlier, what drove me most nuts at the time was the incredibly underwhelming aftermath. Because if you could configure that and you had stains for every impact too, honestly, this would be a very solid experience for the character responses. Body damage won't blow you away, but for its time, I think it was acceptable. The looks for the stains that you do have and the blood pools are great, and animation-wise, those are still very cool even today. So, I can't quite recommend it, but I do have to admire some of the very fun features we have here. That is it for this video. Do let me know how you feel in the comment section, and subscribe, lots more to come. Until next time.